Hey, welcome back to this week's On the Level Leadership. I really do appreciate you being here. I wanted to sort of tackle the concept of feeling overwhelmed, in particular as a leader, because oftentimes when we have positional leadership, we have a series of responsibilities and accountabilities that our senior managers are looking for us to achieve and or complete. And I wanted to kind of go over this because we can get very overwhelmed by the demands that our senior leaders are placing on us, either as an employee or as a leader in an organization. So I kind of want to tackle those. So in today's video, I really want to go through 6 strategies that you can take to help you deal with your professional overwhelm. Hey, welcome back to this week's On the Level Leadership. It's going to be a bit of a hybrid between coaching and leadership information, because positional leaders can experience a sense of overwhelm all the time, especially if you're working in a very busy industry, or if you're in public health right now, for example, or in the healthcare industry. No matter what you're doing, your sense of overwhelm could be quite high. But I think whether it's personal or professional, the sense of overwhelm can be managed in the moment. And it's one that I've been struggling with myself recently. If I want to share a moment of vulnerability, a lot of the big changes that are happening in my life have created some sense of overwhelm on a number of fronts, both professionally and personally. So how do you manage that when that sense of overwhelm kind of creeps up on you all of a sudden? So the first thing is, when you are immediately struck by a sense of overwhelm, something that we tend to not do is take deep breaths. And that sounds so fluffy. I get it. It sounds fluffy. Breathe. Like, seriously, girl, this is your advice? Breathe. Yeah, breathe. So here's the thing. When we get stressed out, we tense up our muscles, our shoulders get tense, our breathing gets tense. It's short and shallow breaths, which tells your brain, oh my God, she's breathing fast, she's breathing shallow, she must be in danger. And it just it just has this cycle effect of creating this notion that there is actual danger, when in fact it's perceived stress or perceived danger that your brain is taking in. So the first thing is, if you're really feeling overwhelmed all of a sudden, rather than lashing out or rather than quitting your job, just take a deep breath. Just stop what you're doing and just take a deep breath. And if it helps, close your eyes, focus on something positive if you can, a vacation you're about to take, your family, your kids, your baby, whatever it is that makes you calmer. Really just kind of visualize that, and then take 3 big deep breaths. Now this again sounds fluffy, folks, but it works because there's a physiological reason behind it. So if you take 3 deep breaths, 3 of those. Second. And a third. What that does is it instantly tells your brainstem that you're not in danger. So it immediately calms you. And if you don't believe me, do it more than 3 times. Breathe deeply for 5 and 6 and 7 until you feel a sense of calmerness. It might not eliminate your stress, but it'll make you feel a bit calmer in the moment. So do that. You want to try to relax and kind of be in the here and the now. So that's number 1, is just breathe. Take a minute, take this, open it up and breathe. Okay, now that we're kind of done with the fluffy stuff, how do you kind of move on from there? You've kind of centered yourself. Now what? Well, the next thing is, you need to figure out, what is it that really needs to be done now? You need to look at what's needed, what's right in front of you that you can accomplish, right? What's the one thing? This is a short I did yesterday and a LinkedIn post I did yesterday. What is the one thing that you can do right now to reduce your stress, right? So what's the one thing that you can do right now that you can stop putting off or prioritizing as the first thing you need to get done? Because that will certainly help reduce the sense of overwhelm if you're taking control of that. So what's the first thing that you can get done, or what's the first thing that needs to be done in order to be done? It sounds so simple, but don't do anything else until you've gotten that one thing done, because that will help focus your brain on that one thing and will reduce the sense of overwhelm. Try to not think about the 100 other things you need to do. Think about the one thing that you need to do in order to accomplish what's being asked of you. No multitasking. There's no phones. There's no texting. There's no on your computer while you're thinking and doing. You focus on that one thing. And that, comes into my other part of that, which is like part B of this, is prioritize. So of the things that don't need to be done right now, what can wait till later to get done? And then more importantly, what can get done later and at what order do you need that done in? So this speaks to the next step, which is create an action plan for yourself. Whether it's a personal goal or whether it's a professional one that's been imposed on you, you need to figure out, okay, how am I going to get to that level, to that space, to that item, to that activity, to that task? If you're unsure as to what's being asked of you, because I know for myself, when I feel overwhelmed, it's often because I misunderstand what the direction is or what the request is of me. So go back to the person requesting you to do something as a leader and qualify or challenge the process, if you will, and ask for clarification on what is being asked of you. Because sometimes we think we need to have this big thing, but really it's just this little thing that they're asking us to do. So really qualify what it is that's being asked of you, and then what the timeline is that they're asking you to do it in. Because again, you may have some perception in your head that it needs to be done now, but when you qualify it and you validate it, your boss says, actually, I really only need it for tomorrow, close of business. I really don't need it for today, close of business, which can kind of take the pressure off. Or alternatively, they say, well, we want it for close of business today, but really all we really want is this piece of it, and you can do the rest later. You can kind of justify in your head as to what's needed, and it can really reduce the scope of work for yourself and for your team. So be really clear about what's expected, prioritize based on all the other things. Now, if you have 10 things that you are responsible for and your boss adds an 11th piece to it and you really don't have the cycles to do that, then you need to challenge the process. Again, that's a leadership role. It's one of the principles of Kouzes and Posner. Go back to your manager and say, okay, I would love to do all these, but we really don't have the cycles for that. So you're going to have to tell me which one of these other 10 have to be prioritized at a lower level so I can get that thing that you just asked me to do get done. Again, it reduces your overwhelm because you're validating what's needed now versus what's needed in the future, and can really help you manage that with your staff and your team. Now, the other piece to prioritization is what can be delegated versus what needs to be done by you. I think one of the things that positional leaders often have the hardest time with is losing a little control over the product that's being developed. So one of the key principles and competencies of leadership is the ability to delegate and the ability to inspire trust in your team. So again, if you want to manage prioritization or you want to manage overwhelm, you need to learn to prioritize. You cannot possibly do everything yourself. And I would argue this is the same thing in your personal life. If in your personal life you're trying to achieve a goal, you cannot be all things to all people in the household. If you're trying to build a business, for example, you need to have a conversation with your partner, your spouse, your family, your kids, whatever, that, hey, mom's trying to do this right now, so I need y'all to do this, this, and this, right? That's kind of the way that works. So again, what needs to be prioritized, what can be delegated, and what do you need to do yourself? So when you're done with all of this planning, you've got a sense of a prioritized list and you're organized. And again, the more organized you are, the more prioritized you are, the easier it will be to deal with your overwhelm because you have a plan, a strategy on how to deal with all this extra work you've been given. The next big thing is take a break. And this might seem counterintuitive. If you have a poop ton of work to do, and now I'm telling you to take a break. Okay, first, Tammy, you're telling me to breathe and you're telling me to take a break. This is so not type A. There's no effing way I can take a break and I can breathe through my work. It's not going to happen. Okay, but here's the thing. I've said it before in other videos when I did it in my take a break video, which I'm going to put up here, but it really is important that you remember that. Sometimes you have to go slower to go faster. Sometimes you need to take a break and stop in order to be able to move faster in the future. So taking a break is about centering yourself. It's about refocusing yourself. It's about gathering your energy, getting your ruffled feathers kind of unruffled and calmed before you continue to work. Because one of the things is when we're in flight or fight, we are not creative. So if what you need to do requires a level of creativity, you're going to shut down your brain the minute you go into stress mode because your flight or fight will kick in. And that adrenaline rush will not have you thinking creatively. That adrenaline rush is going to have you thinking about how you're going to escape that damn job you can't stand, right? So in other words, take a break. Go for a walk. Go meditate. Go listen to some music. I really like the idea of going for a walk or meditating or just taking a minute to just stop and breathe or listen to some music for a couple of minutes because it helps to kind of reframe your brain and get you out of that flight or fight mode. I also like Mel Robbins' 5-second rule. For those of you who haven't read her book, I haven't read her book entirely, but I've read parts of it. And the 5-second rule is really all about kind of stopping that prefrontal cortex from the reaction of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then doing something different to kind of distract your brain from what it's feeling or what it's going through at the moment. So I'm paraphrasing very, very broadly here, but you can do that. You can say, I'm feeling a lot of stress. I'm going to go for a walk, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go for a walk if that's what helps you. And it kind of helps to reaffirm a different neural pathway in your brain to get you off of the anxiety rail, if you will, that you're currently on. Once you've taken a break and you've had a chance to recover a little bit emotionally, psychologically, and you're no longer in flight and fight, you're going to want to come back and try to get the work done with as little distraction as possible. So while not a work-related sign, I just wanted to show you this. When I want to meditate or take a break, I put a meditation sign on my door that tells everybody in my family, I do not want to be disturbed right now because I'm in the middle of a meditation. And when I'm no longer doing that, I keep the open sign. So if I'm in my room or in my office and I don't want to be disturbed, I just put this on. And if I'm okay to be disturbed, I put an open sign. I would suggest, this was from Etsy, by the way, just somebody on Etsy that I bought this from. Go to Etsy and buy a sign that you hang on your door so that you can make sure that either your staff or your home environment know that right now I'm in the middle of something and I do not want to be disturbed. If you have an executive assistant, let them know, I don't want to be disturbed for this next hour. I need to be focused on my work. I don't care unless the building is burning down. I'm not answering the phone and I'm not coming to the door, right? So that you can really focus on the work that you need to get done. So I would suggest at that point that you take your phone and you put it down on the desk upside down so that you're not tempted to look at the texts when they come in. Turn the notifications off so that you're not hearing them whistle at you or ding at you when there's a text that comes in or a message that comes in. Really provide yourself the time to focus, because again, if you've got this prioritized list of things to do and there are legitimately things that you need to do, like read an email or finish a letter or what have you, take the time to actually get it done, because the minute you set yourself up to do that, it'll be a lot easier for you to feel like you're accomplishing something, and again, will help to reduce that sense of overwhelm. Only work on one thing at a time during that time frame. Do not try to do 2 or 3 things at a time, because the minute you do that, again, you're going to reinvigorate that overwhelm feeling. Oh my God, I got these 6 things I need to do. I don't know where to start with them. Pick one and move. Really, at the end of the day, it's pick an item and take action, and that will help to reduce the sense of overwhelm. The other piece is saying no. Learning to say no is super important. And I know that this one's hard for the people pleasers out there, or for the type A personalities, or for those that are worried about being career limited. I know saying no to senior managers can sometimes be really difficult and sometimes impossible without major career flack. But, it's all in how you deliver it. So I think, if it's a matter of prioritization, it's like, I'm not saying no to the work, but I am really overwhelmed right now. And being blunt with your manager and saying, I really just need to get some assistance. Like, I need some direction on which one you would like me to focus on first, because I don't have time to juggle everything, or I don't have the team for it, or I can't delegate these things down. So which one would you like me to focus on? And I'll gladly do that. I think it's all in how you approach it with your senior management. You don't go in guns blazing, screw you, I'm not doing this work because you keep putting these unrealistic demands on me, because if you do that, you're done for, right? But if you go in with a certain perspective of, I really appreciate, the fact that you think I'm so valuable that I can do this work, but I really am struggling to keep on top of everything, and I want to make sure that you're happy with the work I'm doing. So which one would you like me to focus on first? So I really think it's just, again, approach, right? Know your boundaries. So if don't say yes to things if you have an option to say no to them, is what I'm trying to say. So if you have an option to say no to something, like somebody wants you to take on party planning for the office when you have 10 other things that you need to do, then say no. It's like, yeah, I'd really love to do that, but I really just don't have the time for that. I appreciate you asking me, but I can't do that right now. And learn to say no, because again, it's about prioritizing your energy, what you have to offer, and protecting your own sanity when it comes to the sense of overwhelm. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is, and it's super important, is to embrace the good enough. Again, I think that we tend to go for perfection. I've seen this in a government setting where there's very low risk tolerance because of the politics of everything that's done in a government setting. But I would argue that it's like this in most organizations, that risk tolerance is often not really well appreciated. And so the ability to not seek perfection is really arduous. Like, people want perfection, and unfortunately that's not a reality. It's not a fact of life. Like, things go wrong all the time. In fact, that's where we learn. Like, we don't learn to walk by walking perfectly as a child. We learn to walk by falling. We fall, we learn how to balance ourselves, and then we learn to walk. And once we walk, we learn how to run by falling a few times until we get a sense of how to put our feet underneath us when we're running. So really, mistakes are what help us learn and grow. So embrace good enough, number one. Number two, if you can embrace the good enough, it'll be a lot easier for you to delegate, because if you're delegating to staff and you're not expecting perfection, then you'll be okay with delegating, because you'll recognize and learn and understand that the thing that comes back to you might not be exactly as you want it, but it might be good enough to satisfy the senior leads, or it might be good enough for you to at least take it and then, work with it a little bit to get it to the level that you want it. But you didn't have to do the bulk of the work. You just have to do the fine-tuning part of it. So it kind of reduces your workload overall if you can delegate a portion of it to somebody else. So again, be okay with good enough. And I fully get this if you don't embrace the good enough, because I myself as a perfectionist I get you. But trust me on this, if you can embrace the good enough, one, it'll make you a lot more calm, a lot more relaxed, and you'll be able to delegate and get things done in a faster manner, because an 80% solution is better than zero. So if you don't get stuff done because you're trying to get perfect, you're not helping yourself out. At least if you provide an 80% solution, you've got something senior management can respond to and react to. So those are my tips for dealing with the sense of overwhelm. I have completely been overwhelmed by shift and changes this week as I plan my exit from my current employment. And it has been quite overwhelming in terms of the steps that I need to take and the work that I need to do and the courses I want to develop and the marketing plans I need to create and the network I'm having to connect with and so on. It is extremely overwhelming, but you know what? I've broken it down. Thank you so much for watching On the Level Leadership. I'm here every week, so if you like this content, you can subscribe. And if you got anything out of this video, give it a thumbs up, because it really does help this channel out. And I do have a sample action plan that you can build for yourself in the link down below. And again, if you think coaching is something that might help you to achieve your desired goals, to help push you, I have a really no-nonsense approach to coaching that I really think that a lot of people would appreciate. And if you're interested in that, there's no strings attached. It's a 30-minute phone call. Let's just start the coaching conversation. So there's a link down below for that as well. Anyway, take care of yourself. I'm really glad that you spent the time with me, and I'll see you next week. Bye.